悲 Chentao, Grieving over Chentao. This is another short poem by Du Fu. I will read it to you. 孟冬使郡良家子，雪作陈陶泽中水。野旷天清无战声，4万义军同日死。群虎归来学习剑，仍唱胡歌引都市。都人回面向北啼，日夜更望官军至。This is not a 律诗. It looks like a 律诗 with the 7 words to the line and 8 lines, but it is not. It has the rhymes on the wrong tone. 水死是至. And also it doesn't have actually the prescribed form of parallelism in the middle couplets. So this is not a 律诗, it is a ancient style poem which looks a bit like a 律诗. It's not so important. So the situation here, what is this about? This concerns an episode in the Great War, the Great Civil War that's ongoing. So after the fall of Chang'an to the rebels, the new emperor, Suzong, he had retreated to the west and he was conducting the war from there. So this poem, it concerns a battle that was fought in the winter in late 756 in an attempt by the royal, or well, I should say the imperial forces to retake Chang'an. And it was led by a man called Fang Guan. And this battle was fought in a place called Chentao. So Chentao is the place name that we have here. And if you can probably guess from the title, it was a huge defeat for the imperial forces. So, Bei Chentao, grieving over Chentao. Fang Guan, the commander of this disastrous battle, he is, by the way, also a man who will play an important role later in the biography of Du Fu. Well, I will not talk about that now, but Fang Guan, he was a chancellor at this time, so one of the top people in the administration, and he was not actually really a military man, but even though he wasn't, he had persuaded the new emperor to let him lead a force to retake the capitals. And Du Fu, he wrote this poem when news of the battle reached him, when he was still in the rebel-occupied Chang'an. So this poem, I think, is very stirring. It's very spirited. It's very anguished. And as I've already read it to you, I will just go through it line by line. So if we look at the first line here, early winter, yes, 孟冬. 孟冬, it means the first month of winter, so it's the 10th month in the lunar calendar. Mong, it means just sort of the oldest or the first among siblings. So there's also Mong Chun is the first month of spring and so forth. So this is Mong Dong is the first month of winter. 十郡良家子, 良家子, young men of good families. Yes, that's exactly what it means. I'm sorry, I'm being a little bit pedantic here, but I'm not sure what to make of this really. I mean, men of good families. It's not like China's armies at this point was composed of a military aristocracy or something like that. I mean, either he is being very generous with this appellation, 杜甫, 良家子, which I kind of doubt, or it's just a sort of slightly romantic and a bit dated use of language. And this is also a bit dated when he says 十郡. So 十郡, the 10 districts, yes, more or less. But the Jun, it was actually not a current unit of administration in the Tang dynasty. It was the sort of province level administration of the Han dynasty. So already the choice of words here is sort of historical, actually. It doesn't seem to correspond very well to the realities of, apart from this Mongdong. But this is nitpicking, of course. 雪作陈陶泽中水. Yes, nothing to remark on here. You can see the extreme bloodshed, of course. We will get to this. The poem also tells us the number of casualties, of course. 夜旷天清无战声. The moors were vast, the sky clear, no sounds of battle. Very easy, language-wise. So this is the scene we have to understand after the great destruction of the battle. No living thing stirs anymore. 4万义军同日死. Again, nothing to remark on language-wise. But imagine this is very notable. 40,000 loyalist troops, the 义军, the righteous troops, to be very precise and literal. 40,000, yes, this is an historically accurate figure. And historians have very, very much faulted Wang Guan's way of conducting this battle. You know, I won't go into that now, but they agree that 40,000 soldiers did perish. So it was a massacre. And then Du Fu, he sort of, this is what he imagines, you know, in his mind when he thinks of the scene of the battle, the day after the battle also. And then he shifts to the scene that he can see, because he is in Chang'an and he sees the barbarian warriors coming back from the battle, and he hears the news. 军胡归来学习剑. Bands of Hu came back. Here we have this again, this Hu. I don't know. I've commented on this so many times, I won't. I mean, Chunhu, it's all the barbarians. There's the troops of An Lushan. An Lushan, who was an ethnic, you might say, he was a Turk, and so his army was then, of course, composed mostly of the Turks and various other tribes, and then they come back, and it's as if they have washed their arrows in blood, you know. And you can imagine the disgust and hatred for Du Fu here. And he goes on, and they sing their barbarian songs. 人唱, actually, 一个, it says 胡歌 in my edition. So 人唱, I just copied this in from Owen's edition. In my edition, it says 人唱胡歌. So he repeats this Hu 2 times, and Hu, as I have to repeat it, it's not the name of a certain type of people, it's just a general sort of catch-all description for non-Chinese northern peoples. So roughly, yes, barbarians. And this translation, I think, is absurd. Khitan. What is he trying to do? Owen, I mean, Du Fu is not an anthropologist. He doesn't care about, you know, their various obscure tribes and loyalties and the difference between this barbarian and that barbarian. You mean, I think the repetition of the Hu here and the Hu there, I really like that actually in the text that I have. You can sort of really feel the hatred in these lines. Like, no sanitizing here. It's not he's like Hu here and Khitan there. I mean, this makes no sense. I think it makes no sense. They come and they sing their barbarian songs, and they drink in the marketplaces of the city, 都市. And this, of course, this is interesting. 都市 today is just the word for a city, isn't it? But then it has to be understood in the classical languages as literally the markets 市 of the capital, 都. Yeah. And the Duren, the people who live in the capital, they turn their faces. 回面向北踢. You see, the language here is very simple. It must, of course, be understood that the people of Chang'an, they were not too happy to have been occupied to begin with, and now they hear this disastrous news, because we know that An Lushan, when he came and he occupied the city, he plundered all the city and confiscated the property of the residents, and yeah, it was horrible. But there are reports, actually, which is interesting, of the people making resistance. They were murdering the officers of An Lushan and so forth. And every day and night they look for the royal army to come, the imperial army to come, and they look to the north. Actually, this is another difference between this text and my text. Actually, I should have gone through this before I copied it in. In my edition, is 日夜北望关军之. They look to the north, because the emperor, he was to the north in a place called Lingwu, which is roughly in the northwest of Chang'an, in that direction, pretty far away. And now they hear the news of the battle, but they wish to hear good news of the emperor bringing victorious troops to take back the capital, as will happen later. But at this point, everything is hopeless. So I think this is a very nice and powerful, stirring testimony from a small person, in the midst of great happenings. And, you can just feel in this very plain language the sorrow, the hatred, the frustration, and the despair. Because what are they to do? They are under the thumb of this barbaric occupant, and there's no way out. And, things will get worse before they get better. So thank you for listening, and see you next time. Bye.